you can't have a valley without mountains. So he's like, I know, I've been on mountaintops before, in my life, in my professional career, in my personal life. And I know that I'm going to mountains, but there's valleys in between the mountains. And I thought, oh, that's a great point, man. What a powerful visual. It's so true. Life is a series of mountaintops and valleys, and I would argue plateaus as well that are in there.
Welcome to the EQ Gangster podcast, where you will learn practical tools to grow your mental and emotional health and intelligence to be the best version of yourself, both at work and at home. It is real, raw, and transformational. The journey of emotional growth isn't easy, but it's worth it. I believe in you.
EQ Gangsters. Super stoked for the episode today. It is on valleys, more valley episodes. and if you're in a valley, even if you're not in a valley, this is helpful skinny, because there are, I guarantee you, friends of yours, maybe even family members that may be in a valley. And valleys are like literally a natural part of life, a normal part of life. It's hard to embrace valleys when you're in one because it doesn't feel good. The feelings in a valley are not always, they're not pleasant, comfortable emotions. They're typically the unpleasant, uncomfortable emotions. And talked to a classmate of mine today who's has been, and he's been in many valleys in his life, and just shared some fascinating insights. A couple of them that I want to share with you all, because I'm like, dang, I want to capture these lessons that he shared with me. So he's way more self-aware than I am. And so that's why I love talking to self-aware people, because I think I catch the secondhand smoke of his self-awareness to help me increase my self-awareness. And one of the so check this out. So he's a surfer, and he has been away from the waves for like 5 to 6 weeks because he's kind of been going through some stuff, whatever. It just hasn't worked out. Boom, went surfing today, which is my version of jujitsu. So I can relate with this whole concept. And went surfing for the first time in 5 to 6 weeks. Check this out. He's out there, he's kind of, that puts him in a good headspace. Just like jujitsu, immediately, just walking in the gym and smelling the stinking mats is like immediately starts the process of getting me back in the right headspace. And so he's out there, he's paddling out there. Well, he hears about 100 meters away this lady like yelling and screaming. And he's like, sometimes you get aggressive surfers out there like, hey, get out of the way, or I'm trying to catch this wave, don't steal the wave, or whatever. I'm not a surfer. I don't know the surfer lingo, but get the concept. And so he's like, there's no one around me, I can't be in someone's way, but man, it sure sounds like they're yelling at me. So he's looking around, finally sees the lady. He's like, hey, and she's waving her arms, flapping her arms and stuff. And he's like, yells over to her, hey, are you okay? And she's like, no, I'm not okay. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I'm on my way. So he paddles over to her on his board, and she immediately like jumps on his board like a spider monkey, like hugs it the way a monkey would a tree, just like gorilla hugs this surfboard. And she's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. But like her on the surfboard, I guess there's like an ankle thing, like a dummy cord, rip cord thing that attaches to your ankle when you're surfing, so that if you fall off, or when you fall off, you don't lose the board, right? The board doesn't go 100 yards away and you got to swim for it every time. So, well, hers broke or something. So she lost her board, and like she had leg cramps or something like that. And she was having a tough time staying afloat. And so, like, it was a huge blessing. Like, I mean, literally, my buddy, like, saved this lady today. And I'm like, dude, like, you know, and who knows if this is the right way to think about it, right? But I'm like, dude, I mean, talk about confirmation of being in the right place at the right time, of how God would use you, even though you are in a valley right now. You know, because he's in a valley, which is, again, natural, normal thing that humans experience, and all of his things are 100% legit to feel the way he's feeling about these things. About 10 miles. And so, boom, saves this lady and gets her back to the shore and stuff. And he's like, you know, it's hard, dude. It was hard to get her back to shore because it was, I mean, the current and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't an easy task, but man, it was, you know, just, I can only imagine the mental and emotional things you're feeling after going through, you know, a kind of scary situation like that. But just like how, like, because I know for me, you know, when I'm in a valley, a lot of times my emotions get me thinking about me a lot. And you know, that's not a right or wrong. I'm not saying a judgment, because I think it's an important piece of being in a valley is, again, awareness. And there is, I feel, a critical component to experience and learn through the valley is reflection. Well, if you don't reflect, well, you're not gonna have the opportunity to feel and process your emotions if you don't reflect. Because I used to stuff and avoid, so ask me how I know that, right? So I think it's so important to do that. And so, you know, he allowed himself to feel all those emotions and like, also like, wow, I was able to save somebody today, which is huge, right? So what a blessing to still be used in the middle of a valley. So which brought to the second, the other bit. So God can use you in a valley, I guess, is lesson number one. Lesson number one, God can use us in a valley. Number two is, well, and there's all kinds of Bible examples of that. David, Moses, Peter, you know, there's all kinds of folks that I could use for that example. So God can use you in a valley. Number two is, he said, man, I'm so glad that I've, you know, even in the midst of this valley, that I've really been sticking to my habits. He said, because my habits help me through the valley. And I'm like, man, that is so powerful. Oh, and the other visual he said is like, you can't have a valley without mountains. So he's like, I know, I've been on mountaintops before, you know, in my life, in my professional career, my personal life. And I know that I'm going to mountains, but there's valleys in between the mountains. And I thought, oh, that's a great point, man. What a powerful visual. It's so true. Life is a series of mountaintops and valleys, and I would argue plateaus as well that are in there. But the other lesson is, so that's another lesson. There are valleys, and life is a series of mountains and valleys and plateaus and hills, up and down. And that is a part of life, seasons of life. And so what season are you in, right? What season are you in? And how can you just learn and embrace the season that you're in, whatever that is, even if it's a valley? Okay, but habits, what are your habits before going into a valley? Because, and I 100% agree with him, our habits can tremendously help us get through valleys productively, which that's a whole nother conversation, right? What does it look like? What does it mean to go through a valley productively? And I would say being able to experience the valley in its fullness, you know, being aware of the emotions and the feelings, and how did you get there? What lessons can you learn while you're in there? How can you go and grow through that valley? How can you capture? How can you, you know, rather than, for me, I used to try and run from my valleys, you know, like he's doing. I want to go through them productively. How can I maintain my habits, you know, through the valleys and stuff? You know what I mean? So anyway, those are all things to chew on in your journey there. So What habits do you have? What habits do you maybe need to start so that the next time you go through a valley, you can go through it more productively? Or what habits do you need in your valley right now? Journaling was one thing that I encouraged him with, is journal in your valley. Journal the thoughts, journal the emotions that you are experiencing in your valley, and then go back when you're on the other side of that valley and look at those lessons that you learned, and that, you know, the emotions and the thoughts and the feelings that you had in that valley. There's some wonderful things that are to be learned in hard times, some wonderful lessons to learn in hard times. But if we don't capture them, if we don't document them, some of those lessons can be forgotten. So anyway, wanted to share some of those valley lessons with you all that my buddy shared with me, and hopefully they add value to you as well.